What makes fear so alluring? This story is based on the fact that people often fear the unknown or fear the unusual. But that is also one of the main themes as well. And the best way to show this theme is by cooking. Cooking specifically noodles. Reason being is that there are many different ways to cook noodles, and a lot of people like them different ways. Some with more things, some with less. But whatever, that just means that there is always one guaranteed way to get people out of their comfort zones and to prove this theme, as people are usually afraid of the unknown, even though that it is often tempting to others. Much like other things, people may seem uncomfortable at first. First of all, the first step to cooking our noodles is to add the noodles. But also, just to make things a little better, or a little uncomfortable, we're going to add a different type of noodles. Is this because we're out of the regular type of noodles? Who knows? Definitely not me, who couldn't find them at the store. Why are we cooking them? Even though some people, like this willing participant right here, who likes them, may be just comfortable with eating them raw, such as this noodle right here. Such a dear participant. Anyway, next, the step to make our noodles is to just let that sit until they cook. Although plain noodles may be good, that's not what we're going for. We're going to add some bit more to the thing, which means that we're going to be making another pot of stuff. So first what we're going to do, we're going to turn the heat up on what we're making. And then while we're cooking that, we're going to add a bit of butter to that pan. Around 2 tablespoons to the pot. And once you do that, you're going to let it melt but not brown. After you do that, you're going to grab a thing and stir it around. Just going to make sure that it gets coated all around. And after you let that do its stuff, make sure that the heat is not too high, otherwise it will burn too quickly. That is toast. And you're going to then add flour. And not only flour, but milk. Wait, no, not milk. Milk! So, after you let your butter melt, you're going to get 2 tablespoons. May seem like a lot, but trust me, it's not. And you're going to stir it around after the butter all melts, which currently it has not. So, while you are doing this, you're going to make sure that your noodles, which you have put to the side at this point in time, do not become stale, which often happens if you put them in and do not stir. Luckily for me, that has not happened. At this pot right here, where we are currently cooking our sauce, we're going to add our flour, which is going to be 2 tablespoons, does not have to be precise, of flour. You're going to stir that into your mix. Make sure that it is very well mixed in, and once you are done, you should get a mixture that should be slightly brown and kind of nutty to the smell. Once again, please make sure that your heat is not too high. It should only take about as long as it did here. And now that we've done that, we're going to add our milk. Does not matter which kind, does not matter how much, except it does. we're going to pour in around 2 cups. I am eyeing it, and I'm going to add slightly more for the purposes that we are creating today. Once we have done that, we're going to stir every once in a while, not too much, but definitely not too little, and make sure that kind of boils away. It will boil away, and once we do that, we're going to add our cheese. That's right, if you have not guessed it yet, we are making mac and cheese. So, now we have our pot of, essentially at this point, boiling milk. I have just taken off the stove because it has thickened enough. I'm actually going to keep it on the stove because it still needs to thicken a bit more. Because now, what we're going to do, we're going to add our cheese. The cheeses that I'm going to be using today is cheddar, mozzarella, and a blend of Monterey cheddar and, well, queso cheese and cheese I'm not going to attempt to say. But if you see this boiling, that means that it's thickening. I do not want it too thick, otherwise it is not going to work for, or it's not going to be enough where we can add more stuff to it. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to add cheese. Does not matter how much, depends completely on how you taste. I currently like a sharper taste, so I'm going to add more cheddar. But you also may like the taste of a more mild dish, so you may choose to add more mozzarella. I'm still going to add mozzarella because it's good, tastes good. So, all this while, you're going to want to continue stirring this so it melts evenly. So, if it gets too thick, as it has now, you can always just add more milk. Of course, that does mean that you will have to cook it for a bit longer to get it not as thick, but better safe than sorry. So, what you're going to do, you're going to continue stirring this entire time, and it completely does not matter what cheeses that you add or how much. And that kind of adds or contributes to how this is equivalent to the theme, or how this is used by the theme. So, because the theme is that even if you're not used to something, doesn't mean that it is bad, but it all depends on, how the story says it, depends on how your prior experiences take it. If you have prior experiences to different tastes, depends what you're going to add, or if you're going to even like this dish at all. It also depends on outside things, such as if you're lactose intolerant. Oh boy, this is not for you, because this is all lactose. But I consider this quite tasty way of showing how this theme works. So, you're going to, I would suggest adding a couple spices. In this case, may sound strange, but garlic powder. Garlic powder, you are always going to measure it out in your hand, because even if it's out of your comfort zone, you want to make sure that you limit yourself and don't add too much. This is too much garlic powder. You can just, well, maybe a waste, but I gotta use my hand. I'm sorry, garlic powder. And also another household favorite is paprika. Paprika tastes good, and also this is not smoked. Remember, there's a difference between smoked and non-smoked paprika if you ever want to know that. Smoked paprika. Smoked. So, after you add that, you're going to want to stir. After you stir again, you can continue adding, or you can just use this. I'm going to continue adding, if you could not see where I was going with that. So, you always want to add salt and pepper. It's always just a good idea, because you can essentially just even one another out. Also, if you're cooking for a person that you don't like, you can always add too much. However, am eating this and I prefer not to poison myself with salt. So, I'm going to stir this. Now after everything's cooked together, I'm going to add one ingredient which I personally like. Also my family does too, because they don't have a choice in what I make. I'm going to add a spoonful of pimento cheese. That was too much of a build-up, but I have, well, what you gonna do? So, after you stir that all together, make sure it's all melted. By the way, if you're going to add all this together, stir, and if you haven't noticed, I'm not dealing with my noodles. That is because my noodles I have already taken out the water and put it in the sink to drain. I'll put it on the stove for a bit longer, and after I do that, yeah, it's all melted together, I'm going to put the noodles into this casserole pot. Final twist, we're making casserole. So, what we're going to do, after we put this in here, and once again, this may be out of your comfort zone. I know I made this completely on accident the first time. Oh yes, also, always try it before you make it. Make sure that you didn't poison it. I consider that to be good. Why did I just do that? So, next, why did I just do that? By the way, you're probably going to use a lot of utensils when doing this, so. So next up, you're going to put noodles into casserole pot. If you have too many noodles, don't worry, they're noodles. You can eat them with essentially anything. Sorry if there was a bit of a delay there, had to change cameras. So, next up, we just put our noodles into our casserole pot. Once again, this may be a bit out of your comfort zone, but that is fine. You're going to try new things. So, it's in a casserole pot. What are you going to do next? Well, you're going to add your cheese. Be careful if you are doing it how I just did. It just came out of the pot. So, after you do this, after you take it out of the pot, you're going to stir this all together. Because all in all, you really want to stir it together. It's just going to be normal noodles with a single thing of cheese. Which, by the way, I would not suggest it, but if that is how you like your things, if that's how you have previous experiences, go for it. Once again, the theme that I found for this was things that are things that some people may seem exhilarating or new, may be outside your comfort zone. And that is completely okay. So, what we're going to do after we try and get everything together, is that you're going to top it with some other things. I personally am going to top it with a couple of things that I haven't even tried before. So this is a new experience for more than one of us. So what I'm going to add first is bacon bits. Why? Because why not? If I can get it open. That explains why it was not opened. So, I'm going to put this into the theme. It's kind of opening this package is much like opening a new idea. If it wasn't open before, you can always open it up and try new things. This, however, is very difficult to open up, and for the sake of time, I'm just going to get a pair of scissors. So, once again, we can't find scissors, time for knife. You can always makeshift. So, once you make your stuff, you're going to add what you want. I would suggest, if you are following what I'm doing, stirring it a bit. And once again, this will probably leave a mess. But if you take this as in personally, so will many other things. Such as if you're starting a new hobby. Starting new things will always leave a mess, as in your memory. So I'm also going to add sliced tomatoes. And once again, stir it together. And you stir it all together. We're going to top it off with mozzarella and anything else that you want. And last but not least, if you haven't already, I would suggest doing now because I have not stated this before, but put your oven to broil. That means that it is very hot at the top layer, and that will make everything at the top melt and make everything very appeasing. Because even if you are new to something, that doesn't mean that it is too late to try. And much as how the story ends with talking about, well, it talks about how horror movies and haunted houses create a safe environment for people to try new and scary things. Making food appetizing also does many of the same things. Because if you're just starting out like in the book, if you're just starting out with skydiving, you're probably not going to enjoy it. But if you start off small, then you're going to enjoy it a lot more. So what you're going to do is that you're going to, I already had is to broil. We're going to take this put it inside and let that sit until you're done. This is what your finished product will look like. And hopefully this is related to the theme, as in people are not comfortable with things that they do not understand. Hopefully this process will to help you understand that even if some things may seem comfortable, if you keep, such as just regular noodles, if you keep adding on to it, you may get something that tastes really good, and much like a hobby, if you keep adding on to that hobby, soon it will get really good.